Monbiot here for another weekly chat about how tips and techniques and how to help yourself sort of improve your well-being and reduce anxiety. I talk a lot about the importance of being able to focus on the things that we can control in life rather than focusing on the things you can't. Quite often when people are talking about experiencing anxiety and depression, or just a sense that their well-being is off kilter, quite often along with that can come rumination on things that you can't control. Recently I got into a bit of this sort of spiral of sort of really worrying about the future and sort of worrying about climate change and where it was going, what was going to be like for the children. It's really started ruminating in my head. And the thing about when we're concerned about things, when we're worried about things, worrying about it, ruminating about the things that you can't control, then doesn't help the situation. Me sitting worrying about the state of the planet isn't going to stop the planet collapsing. None of that's going to help. But what I can do is sort of take practical steps that I personally can do. I can't influence governments. I can't influence other individuals. But there are things that I can influence myself about what I can do. So, and this is the case with everything, for all of you, for all of us. When we have challenges going on in our world, when we have concerns going on sort of within our lives, we have a choice. We have a choice about whether we're going to choose to be the victim and focus on the things that we can't control, or what we can be is really proactive and focus on the things that we can control, the things we can influence, and taking the steps for that. And what you find, the more you focus on the things that you can influence, the more you focus on the steps that you can take that are within your control, what happens is this increases your own personal power, which in the end, what this does is it reduces that sense of disempowerment. It reduces that effect on that anxiety and that feeling of uselessness. There's an author called Stephen Covey who wrote the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, or Very Highly Successful People, something along those lines. And he came up with this really good diagram, and I wanted just to talk you through it. And it talks very much about this particular thing that I'm talking about. And it's a really good visual aid, and I'll talk you through it. You can print off templates on the internet if you have a look, but you can just draw it yourself. I've just drawn this myself. So this is the little diagram. So it's the circle. It's called the circle of concern and the circles of influence. So what you do is you draw a big circle, and in it you write all the things that you're concerned about, and then what you do another little circle in the middle, and this is your influence circle. So on the outside, in this particular circle, what you're writing is the things that you're concerned about, but the things you can't do, the things you can't change. And you might have, so what are the things that you're concerned about in life? You could be including your family, you're concerned about your family, concerned about the world, concerned about your job, concerns about health, all of those type of things. So all of these would go into your circle of concern. But then what you've got in the middle is your influence. And quite often when you first start this type of technique, this sort of exercise, your influence is very, very little. It's quite a small circle. And in there you put in the things that you can control. So for example, if your concern was COVID, you're very worried about becoming ill with COVID, let's say. But inside the influence, because the things you can't control is the R rating out there, how many people got it, other people's behaviours. But I wonder what influences you could put in. So be wearing a mask, washing your hands, being fit, being healthy, boosting your immune system, following the guidelines, all that type of thing. So that is your influence. My concern, so my big concern, say the environment, so the state of the climate change, all my concerns about that. But then looking at the influence, what is it I can do? Cycle more, eat less meat, make sure I'm recycling, ensuring that if I buy stuff, I'm buying them from companies who are environmentally aware. Make sure that I have knowledge myself, which means then I can start implementing more and more into my life. So, there's always things. So when you start to focus in on this influence, it means then that instead of focusing on all these doom and gloom things and these things which you feel are terrible, you can just put your energy into this type of stuff. And then what happens is you start feeling better, your anxiety starts to reduce because you're actually doing something, you're being proactive rather than being reactive to something. And this is really, really important. This builds into all different areas. It builds in our relationships. If you are struggling in your relationships, you could be sitting there going, oh God, my relationship's rubbish, and that person does this, that person does that. It's all their fault. And that would be your sort of external. This would be this one. But then you could ask yourself, your influence, what is it that what is the influence I could start rebuilding the relationship? So whether it's your partner, a friend, or with your children or whatever, what is it you can do to start rebuilding that relationship so it isn't such a problem? So suddenly you're then focusing on the things which you can do, things which are actually really, really productive. If you start taking this attitude to different areas of your life, knowing that whatever it is that you do, you are able to control, there's always something within your life that you control. In any given situation, you can influence it and you can make very precise choices and decisions, find solutions within it. Then what happens, you start to realise that when other challenges come along, that you can start to have a look about what it is that you can do to influence that in a way that's more beneficial for you. I often use the example of somebody who takes a test. So you've got two different people who take the same test. Both people fail. One person goes, oh God, the teaching was rubbish. I can't believe that. I'm going to give up. And then that's gone. The other person goes, I didn't study hard enough. I'm going to make sure the next time I do that test, I'm going to study really hard and I'm going to make sure that I pass that test. It's a very, very different mindset. It's a very different attitude, which means that suddenly life becomes a little bit more of an adventure. Life suddenly becomes a bit more creative. Suddenly you're willing to take a little bit of extra risks to be able to push yourself forward in the direction that you want to go. And suddenly life has a little bit more purpose as well, because you start to realise that the purpose of life is created within yourself. So it's a really, really useful little tool, that. And whenever you do feel that you're getting very concerned about a situation, do this little diagram for yourself. Have a look, and then maybe there's only one thing that you at that moment can recognise what you can influence. And if there is only one thing, do that one thing. Because then what you will find that as you do that one thing, another idea will spring from that. Oh, actually, I could do that now. Okay, I'll do that. It just gives you that impetus to really start striving forward. So rather than being the victim, knowing that you are the creator of your own life and you are able to make the choices which are right for you. So it's a huge, huge subject. You can take a look online. There's so many things about Stephen Covey and his ideas and his books. But it's really nice just to have a little visual aid in which you can use. So I hope that was helpful, and I shall see you again next week. Take care, keep safe.